They left my name off the list. Again. That made it 12 times. The same hollow grins. The same condescending pats on the back. Next time, Stella, they said with that rehearsed warmth. But this time, I didn't force a smile. This time, I just stared, and held on to a truth they didn't know yet. I already owned the future they were desperately clinging to. If you've ever been dismissed, underestimated, or betrayed by people who smiled while sidelining you, this story is for you. Like, share, and subscribe if you've ever been the one counted out. I gave nearly a decade to that company. 9 years of late nights, missed holidays, training people who would later get promoted ahead of me. And every time the email came, the big announcement, it was someone else's name in bold. Mine? Nowhere. Stella, you're fantastic with people, but not quite leadership material. Kevin once told me, sipping the coffee I brewed. This, from a man who couldn't string 2 professional sentences together without asking me to proof them. But I smiled and nodded. I always did. Until the day they gave the title Director of Strategy to Jason. Jason, the guy who joined 6 months ago, spent most of his time charming people and sending memes. That job had been my North Star, the one I'd worked toward, sacrificed for, earned. But Jason got the title. And I got silence. That day, I didn't cry. I had already cried enough in that building. Instead, I climbed to the rooftop, took in the city skyline, and made a vow to myself. You won't see me coming. But when I arrive, you'll wish you never let me go. From that moment, I lived 2 lives. By day, I played the part, the overlooked worker who never made waves. By night, I built something of my own, quietly, carefully, something that would one day shake the very ground that company stood on. I told no one. Not my closest friend. Not even my sister. Let them believe I was still just Stella. Mediocre. Invisible. Forgettable. Until one day, my name surfaced again, but not the way they expected. Kevin's inbox lit up with an email that probably stopped his heart. Subject line: Proposal to acquire Veriton Corp. For board review only. Sender: Stella Holdings LLC. He opened it with trembling hands. The same woman he once dismissed as not leadership material was now sitting across from him, not as an employee, but as a potential buyer. 2 years earlier, I had resigned. No grand exit, no farewell party. Just a short email and a cardboard box of my things. Kevin didn't even glance up as I walked past. Probably chalked me up as another quitter. But I didn't quit. I pivoted. I took everything I'd learned in those years, every negotiation, every crisis, every deal, and I built my own firm from scratch. At first, it was just me in a drafty basement with a wobbly desk. But every night I buried myself in books and case studies. Strategy, finance, market trends. Client by client, the business grew. 1 became 5. 5 became a growing portfolio. My first million came from a startup Kevin's department had rejected. I invested quietly. Tripled my return in 8 months. I didn't need applause. I let my silence thunder louder than their polite claps ever could. Then I saw it, a headline on the newsfeed. Veriton Corporation hit hard by product recall. Stock plunges. I didn't smile because they were sinking. I smiled because the timing was perfect. The same company that once overlooked me was now bleeding in public. Stocks down. Morale wrecked. Layoffs looming. I could have ignored it. Walked away. But something in me whispered. I didn't call Kevin. I called the board. While they scrambled to save face and salvage what they could, I waited. Waited for them to piece it together, that the woman they dismissed was now their only way out. The boardroom was thick with tension. Kevin sat at the far end, his shirt clinging with sweat, eyes locked on the folder in front of him. Stella Holdings LLC. Not a word was spoken. They were waiting for me. I stepped in, wearing the same black heels I once wore to fetch coffee for half the people in that room. Only this time, every eye followed me. I didn't hurry. I didn't smile. I took my seat at the head of the table, opened my folder with deliberate calm, and said evenly, "Let's get started." Kevin blinked in disbelief. "Wait, Stella, this company, it's yours?" I met his gaze, steady and unshaken. "You once said I wasn't leadership material. So I created a space where no one could tell me what I wasn't. The CFO stumbled over his words. You're here to buy us? I gave a slight nod. Not just acquire. Overhaul. Rebuild. Take ownership. This wasn't just a business transaction. It was a reckoning. These were the same people who once left me off important threads, scoffed at my ideas, who promoted charisma while dismissing capability. And now they were bracing for a rescue, from the very person they once cast aside. Kevin forced a weak chuckle. Okay, maybe we made some mistakes. You were always talented. Maybe we just didn't recognize it back then. You didn't want to recognize it, I interrupted, voice sharp but controlled. I wasn't loud enough. I wasn't part of your lunch group. I didn't fit the mold. I paused, letting the silence sink in. But I didn't need your permission to succeed. What I needed was the rejection. Because it gave me the fuel to build this. I slid a document across the polished table. This is your only offer. Take it, or lose everything. They flipped through the pages slowly. Each clause chipped away at their pride. This wasn't just paperwork. It was a message. I never needed their table. I built my own. And now? They were the ones knocking. Kevin went quiet for 30 long seconds. He looked pale, lips drawn tight as if trying to swallow pride too big for his throat. His eyes kept darting to the others, silently begging someone, anyone, to intervene. No one moved. They all knew. The power now sat across from them, and it had my name on it. Is there any room for negotiation? He asked finally, voice low. I leaned back and looked across the room. The same room filled with people who once dismissed me like wallpaper. You had a dozen chances. I gave you nearly a decade. I worked harder than most, received less than half the credit. You bargained with my time, my ideas, my value. And now, you want to bargain for your survival. Silence. Total and suffocating. Finally, Mr. Reeves, one of the few who had always treated me with decency, cleared his throat. Stella, if I may. This offer is firm, yes, but it's also fair. And truthfully, it's the only viable offer we've seen that could save us. I gave him a nod. Then you know what you have to do. Kevin shifted again, searching for any grip of control. What if we bring you back? As CEO. Full authority. No strings attached. We need your leadership. I gave a cold, measured smile. You didn't want my leadership. You wanted someone to blame when things went bad. Now that the ship is sinking, suddenly I'm your captain. He looked away. I'm not coming back to join your team, I said clearly. I'm coming back to fix what you ruined. You'll remain on payroll for now, as consultants. But the decisions, the direction, the power? That belongs to me. Kevin looked like he'd swallowed something sharp. The realization hit him hard. The woman he once teased for caring too much was now his boss's boss. I stood, gathered my things, and left them with a final word. You have until 9 a.m. tomorrow to sign. After that, the offer's gone. And so is your future. As I turned to leave, Kevin called out, barely audible. Why didn't you ever tell us what you were building? I stopped at the door. Because you were always too busy talking over me to listen. And I walked out, leaving a room full of stunned faces and shattered pride behind me. The next morning, at exactly 8:58 a.m., my phone lit up. Subject. Signed. Welcome aboard. They had no options left. The very people who once deemed me unfit to lead were now answering to me. And I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. Their signatures said everything their egos couldn't. 2 weeks later, I walked through the doors of the company I once tiptoed through with coffee in hand, hoping to be noticed. But this time, the security guards straightened up. The receptionist offered me a drink. Employees whispered in the halls. They all knew. The plaque on the corner office read, Stella Carter, CEO. And this time, I didn't sit at the desk trying to prove my worth. I already had. But I wasn't done. I cleaned house. I replaced outdated systems with smart, scalable tech. I hired fresh, hungry talent, people who reminded me of myself years ago. Sharp. Overlooked. Ready. I launched programs based on performance, not politics. And slowly, the company began to breathe again. As for Kevin? I kept him on just long enough to witness what real leadership looked like. And when the time came, I handed him his final paycheck, with a handwritten note. For every no, you helped build this yes. He said nothing, just nodded and left. Maybe, for once, he understood what humility tasted like. 6 months later, Veriton's comeback was national news. Forbes called it the most shocking turnaround of the year. Clients returned. Stock prices soared. Investors took notice. And every article had one name in common. Stella Carter. The woman they dismissed. The ordinary employee who rebuilt a broken empire. I never had to raise my voice. My success did the talking. Today, when I enter a boardroom, I don't wait for approval. I walk in knowing I've earned my place. Because sometimes, the quiet ones aren't weak. They're just busy building something you'll never see coming. Until it's already too late.